Capture and whistleblowing. As we spoke earlier on to author Athol Williams, who says he's received many messages of support and sympathy after he fled the country, but he says there has been no tangible support in the form of protection. He says he left South Africa scared for his life after blowing the whistle on corruption. Williams testified at the state capture inquiry earlier this year about global consulting company Bain Company. He says that the killing of senior Gauteng Health Department official Babita Deokaran forced him to make this decision. Now, to discuss the plight of whistleblowers in the country, we're joined now by Cynthia Stimple, author of Hijackers on Board, and Dr. Marjorie Jobson, National Director of the Khulumani Support Group. A very good evening to you both. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, I believe that we just have Dr. Jobson on the line. We'll get Cynthia Stimple back on the line, hopefully. So, Dr. Jobson, I don't know if you had the benefit of listening to what Athol Williamson was saying, but basically he's saying it's a very interesting thing. He obviously felt vulnerable and exposed, not necessarily because somebody called him directly, but mentioning Babita Deokaran, this is something that will give any whistleblower the chills, I'd imagine. So talk to us about the safety of whistleblowers and what is real and what is not in terms of their safety, because surely it is something that is very scary and threatening by its nature.
So absolutely. I mean, we are trying as a whistleblower support group to give a sense of safety. That is a network of people around the country who can help you, who can support you emotionally. We have some lawyers who are making themselves available to help. But basically, you are very vulnerable. And, for instance, people like Sibiso Zulu doesn't know, he's on the lookout permanently for possible hitmen. At the moment, we are sitting with one of our whistleblowers in Hoshi Mampuru Correctional Facility because he is a thorn in the flesh of the police management, because he challenges a lot of corruption in the police. And he was arrested unlawfully on Monday and put him straight into prison. We hope that we will have an urgent application in the court in Pretoria tomorrow to have him released. The case they are using is a case from 2012 in which he is not even cited in the case. And this is because he is an ongoing whistleblower on police corruption. And those are the kinds of risks that whistleblowers take. And they are under immense stress, emotional stress, financial stress, and personal safety. So we definitely need, we are talking about a dedicated ombudsman for whistleblowers. We hope to have a Concourt retired judge, someone of that caliber, to lead a process, because there's very little protection for them.
Mr. Williams said, for instance, that the president needs to talk about what he's doing to protect whistleblowers. We know the president has said they are looking at legislation that will protect whistleblowers. But as you've just mentioned, when you make allegations against the most powerful people in the country, the most influential people from various from the very high echelons of society, can you really expect protection from them? Can you really expect the drafters of the law to ensure that it does see you get real protection?
And this is the biggest challenge. Yes, and people often talk about its power and privilege against truth and justice, and the people who are making those stands for truth and justice are not getting the help of the powerful and the privileged, because too many of them are involved themselves in these kinds of matters of malfeasance and corruption. So, I mean, the Special Investigations Unit has said it has a means to provide protection. I don't think anyone of people, Babisa was certainly not protected by the SIU, and I don't think anyone else has felt safe enough to ask for their protection, because there's no guarantee you will be safe. I mean, that's the biggest risk you have. Can you trust the people who are claiming they can give you protection? There's a complete breakdown of trust in those kinds of agencies.
And we're not talking just about the criminal justice system here. Mr. Williams was speaking about how he's received many messages of support since he released a statement saying he had to flee the country, make that difficult decision in order to protect himself, and saying that even though there are organizations that are out there to protect whistleblowers, none of them have really been able to offer him tangible support. So he doesn't know where his next meal will come from, or shelter, etc. So what kind of protection can be offered whistleblowers? Because I see many of them also suffer the fate of losing whatever opportunities for job security they could get.
And that is the problem. You become an unwanted person because you have blown the whistle everywhere. So I don't know. We're looking at all the ways that we can possibly give physical protection, financial protection, legal assistance. People are left having to find money to sue for the things that were taken from them unlawfully, and they are whistleblowers, and they've lost their jobs and their incomes, and they are still having to find a way to sue the people who did these things to them. So it's incredibly difficult, and I mean, I'm grateful we have a fairly fragile network at this time, but at least we can send out alerts and alarms, and we can get, the people in the vicinity can provide at least emotional support. That's really as far as we've got at the moment until we have a proper system in place.
What would be a proper system, Dr. Jobson? Because I'm wondering, if you're asking companies to have a system in place to protect whistleblowers, and yet, as Mr. Williams was saying, that he was doing his civic duty by exposing this corruption because out of interest for the country, but do you really expect the very country that has been, company rather, that's been exposed to effect that, a comprehensive and sustainable system to protect whistleblowers, one that is credible?
Well, one of the discussions is around requiring by legislation every corporation to contribute to a whistleblower protection fund, all of the corporates, and that would be a way to actually build up some resource capacity to do these things. At the moment, there's nothing. We've been looking at possibly an application to the asset recovery unit, because that is the proceeds of corruption that are available, but that hasn't been successful yet. So we have a lot of work to do to make this work.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Dr.